Let's talk about the 49ers and what they did this last weekend. Extremely impressive. I mean, extremely impressive. Beating the Eagles the way that they did. And we'll see. I mean, I'm curious. I think this rematch is going to happen. I'm curious to see where the game's played out and if the 49ers can repeat that performance. But for right now, the 49ers are extremely red hot. Very, very good team. And they've beaten good teams. Remember at the beginning of the season, and even as the season went along, we said that stretch, Seattle, or Jacksonville, Seattle, Eagles, Seattle. That's what's going to determine this whole thing. That's what's going to determine the number 1 seed. The 49ers, that's the stretch. That's the tough stretch. We're going to know coming out of that stretch what this team is made of. Well, we're about out of that stretch, Ryan, and the 49ers are likely going to go 4-0 out of that stretch. Yeah. Extremely impressive, regardless of what your record prediction was. Maybe you had them as a 14-3 team. Kudos to you if that's what they finish. 13-4, something like that. I had them 12-5. I don't think anybody before the beginning of the season looked at that stretch. And as the season went along, before we got into it and said, oh, yeah, the 49ers are going to go 4-0. And not only are they going to go 4-0, but they're going to blow every single one of them out through that stretch. I don't think anybody would have thought that. It's very impressive. So that being said, we just did a power rankings for the quarterbacks, MVP, what have you. Is it clear to you that the 49ers right now are the best team in the NFL?
They look like it when you watch them. I'll tell you that much. What I do know is that they are clearly the best team in the NFC, period. All right. They played. If you look at the strength of schedule of the Lions beat the Chiefs, but they haven't really. There's not too many teams they beat that. So
that was a Chiefs team with no Kelsey or no Jones. So
week 1, yeah, it was kind of weird. All right, so I don't really have the Lions as a potential number 1 team, but I do have the Cowboys and Eagles as the next 2 after the 49ers, and the Niners mollywopped the Cowboys. They freaking embarrassed the Eagles in Philly.
84-29 in those games combined was the score.
Zero question that they're the best team in the NFC right now. Right? I don't care if the Eagles have a better record overall. It doesn't matter. You just got spanked in your own house, embarrassed by the 49ers. So the 49ers are clearly the number 1 team in the NFC. The question I still have that I'm curious about is these top AFC teams. And we're going to find out on Christmas when they go up against the Ravens where these 49ers really stand. You're going up against Lamar Jackson, who was 19-1 against NFC opponents. So right now I'm confident. I believe the 49ers are going to go to the Super Bowl. And we'll talk about what could stop them potentially, coming up on the show here. But I believe they're going to go to the Super Bowl. The question is, can they beat whoever they face, whether it's the Chiefs or the Dolphins or the Ravens? I'm still curious about that. And I think Christmas is going to reveal a lot of that for us.
Yeah, so when I look at the landscape of the AFC, the top 4 teams right now are, in no particular order, they're I think actually I'll give it to you in order. I think it's Miami, I think it's the Ravens, I think it's the Chiefs, and then Jacksonville. Well, the 49ers whooped Jacksonville in Jacksonville. Both teams coming off a bye, no excuses, they whooped them. Miami, although it was last year, these teams are very similar, and Miami got whooped in Brock Purdy's first start. Brock Purdy now versus then is a much better quarterback. And Miami also, you look at the Lions, who the hell have they beat? They have no quality wins on their schedule. So I don't look at them. The Chiefs, if I'm just going team for team, the 49ers are clearly a better team. Now, matchups, styles make fights. And just because you're the best fighter doesn't mean that you can't be beaten by a lesser fighter, because stylistically it's rough. I'm still curious stylistically if those 2 teams meet in the Super Bowl, what happens? Certainly. The only team that I can say that I'm curious about, and we're going to get some of those answers on Christmas, is the Ravens. And it's because of Lamar Jackson and that 19-1 record against the NFC. And that's not just like this is a number. That shows you how hard he is to prepare for. That number is not, because the NFC sucks or he plays bad teams or he's getting lucky. No, he's just extremely hard to prepare for. On 1 week preparation is what that number is telling you. So I think that is going to be interesting. And if you look at their defense, they're the only defense that holds a candle to the 49ers. And they do it very differently than the 49ers. They have some good players over there. Don't get me wrong. There's some good players, whether it's Queen or Roquan Smith or Clowney or what have you. They have some good players, but they do things schematically that are incredible. They're a lot of fun to watch. They're one of the few teams that will show you throughout a game something completely different pre-snap than what you're going to get post-snap. They've mastered fooling opposing quarterbacks this year, and they've done it very, very frequently. So they're an interesting team. They're the only team that I look at. And I think without Andrews, I right now I would say yes, the 49ers. If Andrews was there, I think, man, that one's going to be a tough one. There's rumors he may be able to come back for a late playoff push. So if they're in a Super Bowl, we may face a different Ravens team with Andrews, and Andrews, not having him is a big deal. OBJ, though, if you watch the Ravens, he's actually starting to come back into his own and look like OBJ right as Andrews left. Like the same week he was looking really good, Andrews happened to get hurt, and then OBJ's continued it a little bit. He's finally looking like a really good receiver again. The separation is there. Just everything. He's looking like that player. So maybe that's enough to overcome it. But that's the only team that I look at and say, okay, maybe they're as good as the 49ers in the league, but we'll get our answer on Christmas and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, I will say, though, that the way they were able to contain Hurts, now Lamar Jackson is a much bigger threat in the run game than Hurts, but the way they were able to contain him and keep him in the pocket and also not allow him any rushing lanes to take off, if they're able to do the same thing with Lamar Jackson, I think that changes the game. And the 49ers make Lamar Jackson 19-2 against NFC opponents. I think that's going to be the key. If you can eliminate him, I'm not discrediting Lamar Jackson as a passer, but I think if you eliminate the run threat as well and just strictly make him a passer, kind of like they did with Jalen Hurts on Sunday, then I think the 49ers can pull it off. But that defense is elite, especially in the back end. So Brock Purdy's got to be careful in that game not to turn the ball over, because those guys are good, man. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Christmas. If the 49ers go into Christmas, so right now I'm feeling like 49ers are going to the Super Bowl. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
If they go into Christmas and whoop on the Ravens the way they've been whooping on all these other teams, like the Cowboys, shout out to Melvin, and the Eagles, right? If they do that, not only do I think they're going to the Super Bowl, I think they're winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, you would feel really good about it, at least. I mean, who knows what happens, playoff time, whatever. Anything can happen. And you're playing the best of the best. But the 49ers are looking extremely good right now. And I think even a loss to the Ravens, seeing Lamar Jackson for a second time is helpful. We know that. We know. So I think just getting a look at him in the season is going to be potentially beneficial if they do have to play him in a Super Bowl. Just having that look will help them a lot. I do expect that they're going to probably deploy a similar game plan that they did with Hurts. I think that would be a mistake. Me personally, I think that would be a mistake. I think Lamar Jackson, man, you watch him play week in and week out. He's a lot better passer than what people want to say, and I've been saying it for years. And he's better now than he's ever been. I don't care. People look at his numbers a lot and they box score scout his yards and like, oh God, he only throws X amount of times and he only has 3,000 passing yards. How good of a passer can he be? No, he's a very good passer. He can throw from arm angles. He's got a good deep ball. He's very accurate. I mean, this is the best he's ever looked as a passer. I actually think the way to beat Lamar is to blitz him, send 5. That keeps him in the pocket, and you want to speed up his process. With Hurts, you almost want to kind of like slow him down and make him sit back there and go through his reads, because he really is kind of turned into that one read and go. At least that's the way he's played a lot this year. Lamar is scanning the field. So if you give him time, he's going to go through his progressions without any problems. I think you want to speed up his clock, send 5 at him. That also keeps him in the pocket, doesn't give him the option to run and make him make decisive, quick decisions. I think that is your better chance. But I do agree. I think that they probably likely will look at him like they did Hurts, deploy that game plan, which is why he's 19-1 against the NFC. And then if they see him in the Super Bowl, they'll realize whether they won or lost, that probably wasn't the right game plan. I could see that situation happening.